Welcome back to the double leg. I'm one half of the show, Hey Jai Picks. The other half of the show, the parlay. Joining me in to break down some UFC Vegas 83. Let's get it. After a banger of a card at UFC Austin, we're back at the Apex for UFC Vegas 83, headlined by Song Yadong and Chris Gutierrez. We got 11 fights scheduled right now. We had one drop out literally like an hour before we started filming, but nonetheless, we got fights on a Saturday, and excited for these. We got a 7 p.m. Eastern start time. I was a little concerned they might start it at some weird time because it was supposed to be in China, but it's the normal pay-per-view start time for us, and looking forward to it. What do you think of the card overall?
Yeah, man, this card does not need any more cancellations. It feels like it's just a card that's thrown together, and yeah, can't have anybody else drop it out because it's not that it's a bad card. It's just hurting for name value. We're going to see a lot of first-timers, a lot of people on their sophomore outings in the UFC, but there's some good spots, and there's some good underrated fights we'll see too. But just kind of a little teaser heading into UFC 296.
Yeah, not the most well put together card, but we did get a good addition in the co-main event. Anthony Smith, Khalil Rountree. That's a nice little main and co-main there. But we're going to go through, give you our predictions, our breakdowns of each and every fight, and give you a little insight on what the fighters are doing and what their abilities are. We'll give you our picks, but if you want our bets, you can jump in the double leg premium. The link is in the description for that. Gets you every single UFC card every week for less than $1 a day. If you want to wait and you just want the picks for this week or the bets for this week, you can wait till Friday. They'll be available for one-time purchase there. But let's just jump right into it. Start it off with the main event. A bantamweight bout. Song Yadong coming in at minus 355 against Chris Gutierrez sitting at plus 255. Over under 2.5 rounds. Minus 185 for the over, plus 155 for the under. This is I think this is kind of an underrated fight because it's a interesting matchup. Chris Gutierrez 4-1 in his last 5. Song Yadong 4-1 in his last 5. And still very young for the bantamweight division. 26 years of age for Song, but he's got a lot of experience, a lot of UFC experience, and a big main event spot for him, and a big favorite coming into this one against Chris Gutierrez, who seems to be in his prime. And his last time out, he had a canceled bout, a cancellation. He was supposed to take on Montel Jackson, ended up drawing Alencar Lee. That was less than 2 months ago, but he put on a clinic there with the kicks. That's what he's going to be most known for, is those leg kicks and the movement. It's a thing of beauty to watch. Song Yadong, last time we saw him was against Ricky Simone, another main event, and he got a round 5 knockout. Really nice performance for him back in April. This is a good fight. I think there's the dog money is calling me a little bit on Chris Gutierrez if he could stay at range. Song Yadong is just so dang skilled in every aspect of the fight, the boxing, the wrestling, and just the overall skill set that he possesses. It's a tough thing to deal with for anybody in the bantamweight division. What are you thinking on this one?
Yeah, first of all, I'll say the line is pretty wide here. You got Chris Gutierrez is a really big underdog for a main event slot at this weight class. Like, all these guys are talented at the top end of this class. Gutierrez being no exception. Like, he has lost to Pedro Muniz in Kansas City, but outside that, he'd been running through everybody. Albeit that, the competition, the level of competition before Pedro Muniz hadn't been the greatest lately, fighting at Dana Batkari, Frankie Edgar when he was almost damn near retired, and then Alencar Lee in his last fight, which he looked so damn good. The striking looked good. The volume was there. And just like you said, put on a clinic. Then you look at Song Yadong, man, absolute killer. One of my favorite fighters in the bantamweight division right now. His striking, he's powerful. He's very, very technical. He's fast. Doesn't seem to ever slow down. And he can mix in the wrestling, too, if he needs to. The only loss lately for him being Corey Sandhagen, which, he got the TKO from Dr. Stoppage, had that nasty cut. But, he definitely lost the fight the majority of the fight, but it's not like he was completely outclassed or out of his realm. Like, he competed a little bit with Sandhagen. And in my opinion, outside the champ, O'Malley aside, I think Corey Sandhagen's the best bantamweight in the world. He's just so damn good. So it's interesting to me when you match up their stats against each other. Chris Gutierrez is going to throw more volume. His striking accuracy is much, much more accurate than Song Yadong. And he gets hit way less than Song Yadong gets hit, and his striking defense is much higher as well. That leaves you to the wrestling. The wrestling, these guys are damn near even. Both guys aren't going to shoot a ton of takedowns. Both guys do have good takedown defense. So if you're looking at it on paper, Chris Gutierrez should not be this big of an underdog. It's actually kind of crazy. And if it stays at range, that's Chris Gutierrez's, that's his specialty. Striking at range, he's going to get the leg kicks going. I would worry about him getting countered off of those kicks, though, because Song's fast. He's not going to shy away from any exchanges in tight. And he's got the power to put you out. And we've seen Chris Gutierrez dropped in the Pedro Munoz fight and kind of got pieced up by a smaller dude there. So I do think Song Yadong is going to win the fight. However, I do think this is a hell of a lot closer than people are giving it credit for. I could see it being like razor close down to the end, and then Song maybe getting a late knockdown or something to sway the judges.
Yeah, it's a tough fight because it really just takes one, as we saw in the Gutierrez Pedro Munoz fight. It's like Gutierrez has a great ability to keep people at range with the movement and the kicks. It's like it's really tough to get inside on him. But if you do get inside on him, you can touch him up on the feet. Song Yadong, very powerful, very fast on the feet as well. That was the big thing that jumped off the board to me when watching his film, is just his ability to throw his hands fast and get on the inside, because he's going to have to do that in this one against Chris Gutierrez. Path of least resistance would probably be to take him down. But that's, he's got a 71% takedown defense. It's going to be tough to close the range and get the takedown because Gutierrez does a good job of circling off the cage, but we are in a smaller cage at the apex. If Gutierrez can land some devastating leg kicks early, I think he's got a better chance to win this one. Chop the leg early, and play it safe early, I would say, because you don't want to let Song get in the rhythm early and start to take over there. So if Gutierrez can land leg kicks early, slow him down a little bit, he's got a much better shot. But I think Song Yadong is just too tough. We saw in the Sandhagen fight, took some big shots, got that nasty cut. He was still wanting to go. I think he's tough enough to get through those kicks. And I think the hands are a little bit better. And, going back to the Munoz fight, Munoz still got outlanded by Gutierrez, but he clearly won the fight. Just landed the more significant strikes on the feet, knocked him down. And I think Song Yadong is able to possess that power to do the same thing and could find a later finish as well. That's something I'll definitely be eyeing, because I think Gutierrez is going to fight pretty smart early and try to feel this out, try to get in make it his type of fight. And I think Song Yadong will eventually start to take over as the fight goes on. So he'll be the pick for me. Don't love the line, but nonetheless, he's going to be my pick this week. Light heavyweight bout, Khalil Rountree coming in at minus 220 against Anthony Smith, sitting at plus 180. Over under 2.5 rounds, plus 125 for the over, minus 155 for the under. Khalil Rountree, bit of a resurgence for his career. It's been on a good win streak. Anthony Smith, sitting at 35 years of age. He's been kind of up and down. We saw him against Johnny Walker just kind of get pieced up. A lot of leg kicks. He'll definitely have to worry about this one, or those leg kicks in this one with Khalil Rountree. But then he comes back against Ryan Spann. Another close fight. He was hurt in the second round and then comes back and rallies in the third round to get the win there by split decision. I don't know where Anthony Smith is at in this one, because it's like the game plan, it's even in like the leg kick situation. Like Khalil Rountree has some nasty leg kicks. He's got some nasty body kicks. He's just got nasty Muay Thai overall. Ryan Spann, his last time out, needed to hit some leg kicks, and he only threw 6. He landed all 6, but he only threw 6. It's like Anthony Smith, his last time against Johnny Walker, took like 50 leg kicks. It's like, you got to kick the leg, obviously. Anthony Smith's weakness is the leg kicks. And Ryan Spann didn't do that. I would expect Khalil Rountree to come in here and start whipping that leg early. But Anthony Smith himself landed 35 leg kicks against Ryan Spann, so maybe he can give him a little taste of his own medicine. With the age of Anthony Smith, I don't love, taking him, but it's plus money. He's got a lot of experience. Khalil Rountree does have, a negative striking differential. He's kind of a guy to more sit down on his punches, not a big volume guy. If Anthony Smith can maybe look for some takedowns, mix that in, uses jiu-jitsu, he's got a decent shot here, but I think all signs kind of point to Khalil Rountree. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I think so too. I think there's a lot more working against Anthony Smith in this fight. One, you touched on being the age, and not so much really the age, it's just the miles on the career at this point, the damage he's taken. He gets cracked in some fights, and against guys like Glover who are kind of able to break him. Fighting a guy in Khalil who has some of the best power in this division. I mean, he's got 8 wins in the UFC, 6 of them come by knockout. Just shows you the level of power you're dealing with when you fight him. And the other thing is the leg kicks too. I mean, Anthony Smith hasn't taken leg kicks well in the last couple of years, and now he's going to be fighting a guy who maybe throws him harder than anybody. I think if Anthony Smith wants to win this fight, first he's got to get through that first round. He's got to implement the wrestling and just try to get into the clinch and wear on Khalil Rountree and take some of the power out. Because if not, I think it's going to be a long night for him. Even if Anthony Smith goes out there and outlands Khalil Rountree, if you look at Khalil's record, he doesn't get beat by guys who are volume strikers or outland him in fights, because he has such power that to the judges, this dude's landing all the damaging blows. I mean, look at the Jacoby fight. He won that via split decision, which I don't think he won that fight, but Jacoby outlanded him in significant strikes, 120 to 85. But more of those 85 strikes were big power shots that really did some damage. And to the judges, that's what wins fights. So I think that's working against Anthony Smith. If Anthony Smith does come out here and get an early takedown and we see Khalil start fading, he could, I guess, win the fight. I just don't know. I haven't really seen anything in his last couple of performances that tells me he's going to be able to keep up enough pace throughout 3 rounds to beat a guy with this much power like Rountree. Even in his last fight against Ryan Spann, I was on Anthony Smith, and that fight looked a lot closer than it was. I guess Anthony Smith outlanded him by a lot, but then again, it's just not the most powerful shots in the world. Fighting a guy like Ryan Spann, he was able to survive that, but I feel like Khalil Rountree is just another level of power, and I don't see Anthony Smith taking too many of those big left hands from Khalil here.
Yeah, one thing that does need to be touched on is just the level of competition. It's like Khalil Rountree not fighting near the guys that Anthony Smith is going up against. Chris Dawkins had a bad run at heavyweight, goes down to light heavyweight, gets knocked out again. Dustin Jacoby is that near 15 guy, kind of inside and out of the end of the rankings there. That's a good win, but like you said, it was a close fight. And then Carl Robertson and Modestas Bukauskas. Anthony Smith, Ryan Spann twice, Johnny Walker, Magomed Ankalaev. Those are his last 4 fights. So he's fighting much tougher competition. And he's not necessarily getting, cold cocked by guys. It's not like his chin is just terrible where he could just get one hitter quittered. And now that I say that, maybe he goes out there and does get one hitter quittered, but the last time he got put out was back in 2018 against Thiago Santos. Was a round 2 KO, but other than that, it's like he got hurt. He broke his leg, I think, against Ankalaev, and round 5 TKO by Glover Teixeira, who just mauled him pretty much. So at least there's the upside there for Anthony Smith that it's like the chin isn't terrible, but tons of damage racked up over his career. He's had over 50 fights. There's a lot of miles on that age. So Khalil Rountree would be the pick for me, but I wouldn't go get on anybody for taking Anthony Smith as a dog because he's got that experience and he does have a path to victory here. It's not like he's outgunned in all facets of the fight. So Rountree would be the pick, but we'll keep her going. Lightweight bout, Nasrat Haqparast sitting at -210 against Jamie Mullarkey sitting at +170. Over under 2.5 rounds, -240 for the over, +200 for the under. Nasrat Haqparast 3-2 in his last 5, same as Jamie Mullarkey. Both men similar in age. and Jamie Mullarkey usually going to have a good reach advantage on guys, but only 2 inches here against Nasrat. Jamie Mullarkey, the big knock on him has been his chin, been knocked out 4 times, and those his last 2 losses have come by knockout. But if you look at his last few fights, it's like, okay, he's getting knocked out by Muhammad Naimov, who we've seen, just got another win against Nathaniel Wood. That loss ages pretty good. And then lost to Jalen Turner, who we all know is a killer at lightweight. So you can't knock him too much there. Nasrat picked up a good win against Landon Quinones. It's not necessarily like a great win, but it was a good fight and a good performance by Nasrat winning that one. This is an interesting fight. I think it should be a little bit closer in the odds, but I can see where the odds are at. What are you thinking on this one?
Yeah, I think these odds are a little wide. Just because if you look at Mullarkey, the one thing he struggles with is the power. We've seen it, against Naimov, against Turner, but those are some powerful, powerful dudes. And we saw that in Naimov's last fight. He was able to crack Nathaniel Wood at times. And obviously Jalen Turner, if he touches you up, then, you're going out. Just ask Bobby Green. But, other than that, he's going in there like against the Francisco Prado, who does have a lot of power as well. When he's able to implement his wrestling, he can stay safe. And, he does good work from there. Beat Michael Johnson, who's a good striker. And then Mac Desi in the last one was able to just kind of, stay safe, land the shots, and he walks away the winner. And Mac Desi's not really known for his power. He's just, in that fight, had some decent volume, and that was about it. And it's almost what I'm seeing with Nasrat Haqparast. Haqparast, 7 wins in the UFC, only 1 by knockout, and it comes to Joaquim Silva in 2019. Other than that, Haqparast likes to stay on the feet and box, and he's a very good boxer. He's fairly accurate and throws good volume, but he doesn't always have that big touch of death left hand, big power punch by any means to put people out. And if you don't have that against Mullarkey, and you're not, a higher level grappler or anything, I think Mullarkey has success. Please, God, no, don't let that happen on Saturday. But I think he has success against guys that aren't knocking him out. He can compete with them. And with Haqparast, if Mullarkey can just get to the clinch and work from there, I think he's going to make this a lot closer than the lines indicate, in my opinion. And if he gets him down, Mullarkey's pretty good on top, and he will do some good ground and pound. He's got sharp elbows, and he lands a lot of damage from there. And even on the feet, like, I don't think he's completely outclassed. He is 6 foot tall, 74-inch reach. Compared to Haqparast, he's going to be a few inches shorter. So, I don't know. On the feet, Haqparast, I'd give him the edge. I don't think it's a one-sided affair. And if Mullarkey can get the wrestling going a little bit, I think he'll make this a pretty damn close fight. So give me Jamie Mullarkey to win this fight. I don't think Haqparast is knocking anybody out at this stage. And if you're not knocking Mullarkey out, he's going to be in the fight.
Yeah, I think this could probably come down to a decision where you're kind of, not really sure who won, and it'll come down to what the 3 judges saw. Haqparast last time out landed 171 significant strikes, but he also got hit with 148 against Landon Quinones, who made his debut. So I think Jamie Mullarkey's got a good shot to win this one. If he can implement some wrestling in there as well, switch it up with what the judges are seeing, I think he's got a good shot. But if this stays on the feet, he's just got to stay safe. Don't get overzealous throwing big hooks, fight behind the jab, stay to the basics, and I think he could pull off a win. So I'll take Mullarkey for the pick as well. But Nasrat, he just gets in a lot of these decisions where, it could go either way. It comes down to what the judges see. If Mullarkey can switch it up and give the judges a little bit of a different look, maybe wear on him, because he'll probably be the bigger fighter. Maybe throw him up against the cage a little bit, land some knees, get him in the clinch. I think he's got a good chance. I'll take him for the pick as well.
Can't believe I just said Jamie Mullarkey and Haqparast are going to have sex on Saturday.
We'll have success. Welterweight bout, Jun Young Park. This is a middleweight bout. Jun Young Park sitting at minus 190 against Andre Muniz, sitting at plus 160. Over under 1.5 rounds, minus 120 for the over, minus 110 for the under. The Iron Turtle, 4-1 in his last 5. He's on a good win streak here. Andre Muniz, 2-fight losing streak. So maybe you see some recency bias in that one. But Muniz, 33 years of age, jiu-jitsu wizard on the ground. You see the reach there. He's got 5 inches in reach advantage. Not really known for his striking, so I don't know if that'll come into play too much. But Jun-Young Park, we saw in his last time out against Albert Duraev, just put a pace on him early and wore him down. Ended up getting the round 2 rear naked choke. That's his 3rd straight rear naked choke finish. Jun-Young Park coming in as the favorite. It's Muniz, who Muniz was, minus 200, minus 220 against his last 2 opponents in Paul Craig and Brendan Allen. So I'm interested to see your take on this one.
Yeah, I've been very disappointed in Muniz here. I just don't see how he beats Jun-Young Park, if I'm being honest. On the feet, I think this is Park all day. Park's got great volume. He throws nearly 5 significant strikes per minute, and he doesn't get hit with near that. So when you look at the jiu-jitsu, that's the only place I guess Muniz would have a slight advantage. But Jun-Young Park averages more takedowns at a higher accuracy, has a way better takedown defense percentage, and he averages about the same amount of submission attempts per fight. Muniz, if you look at him beating these guys in the UFC, it's like Uriah Hall, Eric Anders, Jacare Souza, who's a dinosaur at this point. That was in 2021. And other than that, the average person listening to us talk right now wouldn't recognize a single name that he's beaten in the UFC besides that. So I just don't. I think once he got to the Brendan Allen level and the Paul Craig Allen, he was just outmatched. He's just not as good as the top of this division yet, at least. He is older too, I believe, right? 33. Yeah. So Park's just shown lately, time and time again, he'll cash as an underdog favorite. Like, it doesn't really matter. He's always coming out there with the same exact game plan. He's just solid all the way around. I picked Duraev in that fight because I thought he was going to have the wrestling advantage, and Jun-Young Park wouldn't be able to keep up with that and the strength. But Park just absolutely, did what he wanted on the feet, had a bunch of submission attempts until he finally got the one in the second round. So I don't see Muniz implementing a wrestling game plan to get on top and implement his jiu-jitsu. I think if it stays on the feet, Park's going to run away with it by a mile here. I think Park is probably going to be a parlay piece for me this week. I like him a lot over Muniz here.
Yeah, Park he's so well-rounded. He's got good stand-up. His jiu-jitsu is there. Wrestling is there. And the cardio, I mean, the pace he puts on you, it just drowns guys. Like, his last 3 fights, the guys in there were like, get me out of here ASAP, because he put it on him early. I mean, he's got second round finish, first round finish, second round finish, but they weren't like just getting him out of there easily. Like, these guys had to go in there and, take a beating or at least start to panic because he's on top of them and forcing the issue. Andre Muniz, we saw in his last 2 fights, like, if it goes later in the fight, he's going to eventually crumble. So that scares me for Muniz. I could maybe see a Parks round 2 or round 3 finish. I'll definitely eye that up. But you also have to look at the level of competition. Like, Park, his wins aren't great. Like, I'll just say that. His 4-fight win streak, 2 of them are like bottom of the barrel. Dennis Tululin, bottom of the barrel. Joseph Holmes, bottom of the barrel. Those guys probably shouldn't even be in the UFC. Duraev is okay, but he doesn't really have like any great wins. And then Eric Anders was like a split decision. It was I think it was fair for Jun-Young Park to win that fight. But he's so active on the feet and on the ground. If a guy's going for takedowns, like Eric Anders was shooting takedowns left and right, Park was still landing shots. If Muniz wants to win this fight, he's got to get him down and control him early. Maybe take the back and try to get him out of there early. Because if he doesn't, Park's going to keep coming. Muniz, level of competition is just a lot better. Last 2 losses are to Brendan Allen, who's really good. Paul Craig, not as good, but, he's still alive as an underdog for sure. I've been disappointed in Muniz's last 2 fights, but I can't overlook that he's the dog here. Park will be the pick for me. And I'll probably end up just going with a Park late finish or something like that. But Muniz as a dog, I don't think is terrible because you're getting a good buy low spot. But I'm still going to stick with Jun-Young Park as the pick.
it's just, you're getting TKO'd by Paul Craig. It's like, oh
Yeah,
man,
it's just
it's grease.
if he gets out of the first, it's like, yeah, he's
Yeah.
pretty much done. So
I actually like this fight to end inside the distance.
yeah, I think so too.
You got a skill set with the jiu-jitsu to where if Muniz does find himself in that position, it's not out of the realm of possibility he gets the sub. And I could see Park wearing him down and mounting him, getting the TKO or the
Yeah.
submission too. So
Yeah, that over under was 1.5. I kind of like the over there because I think if Park gets him out, it'll be later.
yeah.
And I don't think Muniz is gonna be able to finish him, early. So yeah, I kind of like that over. Keep her moving. Welterweight bout here. Kenan coming in at plus 125 against Kevin Jousett. Sitting at minus 155. Over under 1.5 rounds. Minus 240 for the over, plus 200 for the under. Kevin Jousett making his sophomore outing here against Kenan, who's 33 years of age, and it has racked up a good amount of UFC fights. Kenan was, probably happy to be fighting in his home region, but nonetheless, he's fighting at the Apex. And Jousett making the trip over from New Zealand. You see the France flag, but he trains at City Kickboxing with Israel Adesanya and the gang. But what are you thinking on this one?
Yeah, I was shocked to see that Kenan was the underdog in this fight. I mean, you can't really tell me Kevin Jousett comes into the UFC and beats Kiefer Crosby. I mean, Kiefer Crosby is not a UFC level fighter. We saw that on the UFC or on UFC 293 when they fought. And then you look at Kenan, he just beat Rolando Bedoya, who showed in his debut against Chaos Williams that he looked pretty legit and took Chaos Williams to deep waters, and a lot of people thought he won that fight. He looked a lot better in Chaos in that fight, and I mean, I thought he proved to everybody watching at home that he was going to be a high level fighter if he kept on that track. And Kenan just put on a clinic against him, in my opinion. He, landed a ton of leg kicks, ate the leg kicks, was able to hurt him on the feet, had him wobbled throughout the fight, and he looked really, really good. Scored a knockdown on him. And in his fight before that, he lost to Ian Gary in the third round by TKO. But if you remember in that first round, absolutely smoked Gary. Gary looked like he was out cold until he hit the mat and kind of woke up and then got saved by the bell, if I remember right. But, you go from that to Kevin Jousett. I just don't see how he's the underdog here, especially in a fight where, if Song keeps it on the feet, he's going to compete with everybody. He's got great power. I don't think Jousett's fought anybody with that precision and power yet. And I think it's going to be a very good fight for one. And I don't know. I had to hammer Kenan as the underdog going into this fight so far. I think he gets it done here. He's a very strong dude, too. It's not like Jousett's going to be able to come in here and grapple him up this whole entire fight or anything. I mean, Kenan does only have a 62% takedown defense, but he has a lot of fights, and that's over a larger sample size, too. So there's fights where he stuffs a lot of takedowns. There's some where he is getting taken down a few times, but he can find the takedowns himself. He took Gary down twice in their fight. Other than that, he's not out there getting wrestled up by everybody.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think Jousett, coming off the win over Kiefer Crosby, he's like maybe why he's the favorite here, but I don't really put too much stock into that. Like Kiefer Crosby's not really UFC level, and Kenan has gotten more UFC experience. He's gotten better UFC wins. I just don't really see why he's the underdog here either. Kenan trains out of Team Alpha Male. Looks like he's been in Thailand as well. And the thing that scares me about Kenan is he's not super high volume, but he was still able to overcome that in his last fight. And he got outlanded by almost 40 significant strikes to Rolando Bedoya, but he landed the knockdown, landed more significant strikes, and or landed the more significant strikes, not number wise, but the more significant punches. And I think he could do a similar thing here. He could even look to not wrestle him up, but just wear on him, because Kevin Jousett does have some good judo. He's got some good judo throws. He'll have to watch out for that. But Jousett mainly a kickboxer, and he even got outlanded by Kiefer Crosby. He ended up going for the takedown and got the sub. So, yeah, I don't know. I think Kenan being the underdog here is the play. He'll be the pick for me. Kevin Jousett didn't show me anything in the first fight that's like, oh my God, this guy's going to be, a killer. by any means, and putting him up against Kenan as the favorite just doesn't make sense to me. So Kenan will be the pick. Flyweight bout, Hung So Park coming in and at a minus 500 against Shannon Ross, sitting at plus 350. Over under 2.5 rounds, plus 140 for the over, minus 170 for the under. Hung So Park is undefeated. He won the road to the UFC title earlier this year. And Shannon Ross, not a good stretch for the man. I'm really shocked this guy's getting another UFC fight. But nonetheless, I mean, it might be his last one. So maybe he's got to, get a win here to save his career. But 34 years of age, and he's 1-4 in his last 5. And his last 2 performances are not good. That's probably why you see the line like that. Fighting a debuter, a guy that's had 2 UFC fights, and he's still, a big dog coming in. I mean, Hung So Park is like not some world beater by any means. But Shannon Ross knocked out by Jesus Aguilar in 17 seconds, knocked out by Clayton Rodriguez in under a minute. Aguilar, that was his first ever KO. So it's not like Aguilar has some massive power. Chin is definitely some concerns. That's 3 straight knockout losses for Shannon Ross. Park, more of a grappler. His last time out, he got a round 3 submission win. Shannon Ross hasn't really shown like any great ground game. He's more of a stand-up fighter, but then the chin has let him down his last few fights. This one looks like it should be one-sided, but we're getting a debuter here, so you never really know. Betting the heavy chalk on a debuter has burned us before, so you never know. But all signs do kind of point to Park here. I don't think Shannon Ross will be in the UFC much longer. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I completely agree. Ross, contender series fight, looked okay against Salvador, had some really good moments. Salvador was just able to put him out in the second round. But after that, I mean, Clayton Rodriguez, good fighter, comes out, gets the early finish against Ross. And then the same thing with Aguilar. And we were there in attendance at that fight. And we both had Aguilar. He was our play of the week for that exact reason, is that just Shannon Ross just isn't the most durable guy. But I think you and I thought he was going to get wrestled up a little bit and maybe submitted in that fight. But, I remember taking Jesus Aguilar at minus 140 for the fact that watching Shannon Ross on tape, like he does kind of get wrestled up on the regional scene a little bit. Like guys are able to take him down. Guys are able to get into the clinch. And, kind of if you're a stronger opponent than him, kind of take him down, hold him there and do some good work. And I kind of see that out of Park here. I think Park is a more well-rounded fighter. I think Shannon Ross is a good boxer that just doesn't have the best chin at the UFC level. But I think Park's good enough on the feet too that he's going to compete with him there. And like I said, we've seen every time Shannon Ross gets touched, he goes down. And Park doesn't necessarily have the biggest KO power, but he's very accurate and he times his shots very well, and he's got some speed. And a lot of times that's all it takes against guys. So Park's coming in on a 7-fight finish streak, I believe. 8 wins, 7 by finish, if I'm looking at that right.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is just his durability and his pace. He's got one speed, and he starts the very first round with that speed, and he's there at the very end with the same pace and pressure. He's got great cardio, and a lot of his opponents just can't hang with that at this level. And I see the same thing happening with Ross. I just think he could get this thing done earlier than the second or third round too. So if you're betting on this fight, I mean, Shannon Ross is a decent-sized underdog, but at the same time, it's so hard to back a guy, even at big plus money, who's going down every time they get touched. So, yeah, give me Park in this one. I think he kind of does what he wants.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Park will be the pick for me, being a big favorite. It's not saying anything crazy. Probably have to look for some type of prop, whether it's KO or submission. But I like that under. I wasn't, too pricey. And I think, Park is a finisher. Shannon Ross been getting finished. He's got some decent power on the feet as well. So I think that under might be the move for me, but Park will be the pick. Bantamweight bout, Stephanie Egger sitting at plus 165 against Luana Santos, sitting at minus 200. Over under 2.5 rounds. Plus 115 for the over, minus 145 for the under. 35 years of age for Stephanie Egger. 23 years of age for Luana Santos, who picked up her first win in the UFC in her debut last time out against Juliana Miller. First round TKO. And she absolutely put it on her. And Juliana Miller, got pieced up. Stephanie Egger, 3-2 in her last 5, and she's coming off the loss to the Russian Ronda. She got knee barred in the first round there. She was a big favorite, and she took a loss. So she's coming in here as an underdog. What are you thinking on this one?
Yeah, this one's another pretty interesting one. Santos looked good, I guess, again against Juliana Miller, but she's supposed to win that fight after we saw what happened with Hardy and Miller. And Miller did come out guns blazing in that first round and hit her with some shots. Just Miller doesn't have the most power at all, but she was able to find the chin of Santos at least. And Santos got the finish, but it just nothing about her stand up impressed me that much. It was a little reckless, a little wild, not the most power in the world. Um, so yeah, outside of Juliana Miller and really outside of Jenna Bishop in when she fought her in LFA, she hasn't fought the best opponents in the world. And she's going up against a Stephanie Edgar here, who has a decent amount of UFC experience, who is a phenomenal grappler. She'll find submissions. She's basically finishing every single one of her wins in the UFC, Edgar is. And her last win being Island Perez, where she's able to take her down twice and find the second round submission. Now, if you look at Perez lately and what she's doing to girls inside the octagon, it makes Stephanie Edgar look pretty damn impressive too. So overall, I think if it plays out on the feet, it's going to be a close fight. I mean, Luana Santos has the judo background as well. I just don't think it's going to be near the level that Stephanie Edgar's is. Edgar is a phenomenal grappler, and she's got that. She likes those head and arm throws. She's good at them, and when she's on the ground and gets on top, she's very good at looking for submissions and getting the job done. So I think it's a little too much too soon for Luana Santos. I like the experience. I like the strength on Edgar's side, and I like the grappling to get it done here. I wouldn't even be surprised if we see the submission as well.
Yeah, this one is tough because Stephanie Egger is kind of like she's a wild card to me. Like, she has some good performances, and then you see her last time out, it's like, what are you doing? Like, she giving up a knee bar? Like, what is this? Like, what is happening here?
Yeah.
And I mean, she's been submitted twice in her last 3 fights, the knee bar, and then she got submitted by Maribona Silva, round 1 armbar. Luana Santos showed a good showing of her hands against Juliana Miller, but it's Juliana Miller. And then you look at her tape on the regional scene, her only losses to Jenna Bishop, who's a really solid jiu-jitsu practitioner, lost by split decision there. So that makes me, look at Luana Santos being like, I think she can hang with the jiu-jitsu of Stephanie Egger. And Luana Santos has good jiu-jitsu herself. She's got some pretty weird submissions. The Kesa Gatami leg Americana twice. And she's gotten 4 or 3 submissions on her record. I don't know. I think Luana Santos might be the more well-rounded here. But you're facing a girl in Stephanie Egger who has a good amount of UFC experience, and she's got some dangerous judo herself. She loves that head and arm throw.
Yeah.
And if she's not ready for that level, I could see this going downhill pretty fast. But I don't love the line on Luana Santos. She'll be the pick for me. And maybe I'll switch that to Egger later in the week. But I also kind of like the under in this one too, because Egger, she's been either finishing girls or she's been getting finished. So I think Luana Santos showed in her last time out, she's got the hands and she's got the submission ability herself. Stephanie Egger can get submitted. So I kind of like the under more than either side in this one, but Santos will be the pick for me. Flyweight bout, Tatsuro Taira coming in at minus 500 against Carlos Hernandez, sitting at plus 350. Over under 1.5 rounds, minus 200 for the over, plus 165 for the under. 23-year-old Tatsuro Taira, still undefeated, taking on Carlos Hernandez, who had a nasty, I mean, it wasn't a knockout, but it was a technical decision his last time out against Dennis Bondar. Really should have been a knockout. Threw him on his head, landed some nasty elbows, and got him out of there. But his only loss within the last 5 years is to, or 6 years actually, is to Alan Nascimento, and who was supposed to be on this card, is super good jiu-jitsu. He's going to have to face that here against Tatsuro Taira, who was more of a grappler, a jiu-jitsu practitioner. We saw his last time against Edgar Chairez, though. I mean, there's still some holes on the feet that he's got to, tune up before he fights the higher level of the flyweight division. Nonetheless, he gets the dub there, still undefeated. Before that, armbar, and a decision win against Carlos Candelario. Those are his 4 UFC fights. What are you thinking on this one? Wide line once again.
Yeah, I'm just waiting for the opportunity to fade Tatsuro Taira, and I don't know if it's this fight or not. I'm still trying to decide. I'm still breaking stuff down because Tatsuro Taira is great with the grappling, and when he gets guys on the ground, he's either controlling you or he can find submissions. And Nascimento in 2 fights ago for Hernandez was able to take him down a couple of times and find a submission in the first round. I don't know if Tatsuro Taira is on that level yet. He's very young, and that's what scares me as well here. He doesn't have the most fighting or UFC experience. He's fought in guys that I think are kind of set up to get beat by him. Guys like Candelario, CJ Vergara, who gets taken down. Jesus Aguilar was maybe on paper a good fun matchup, but he's just that much better than Aguilar in the grappling department. And then Shirez, on the feet, Shirez was cracking him a little bit and had him wobbled at one time, was able to kick the legs out from under him, and also threw up a couple of submission attempts that were pretty good as well on his side there. So Taira still definitely some holes in the game. He's still undefeated in the UFC. Nobody's really been that close besides the guillotine attempt from Jesus Aguilar that was locked in for like over 2 minutes, it looks like. Yeah. And he stayed composed and stuff and showed good composure there. But I hate the fact that he's only like 23 years old. I hate the fact that he's going up against a guy in Carlos Hernandez who, doesn't have the best takedown defense, but he's very good in the scramble, and he's very good at getting back up to his feet, and he makes you pay for that. Like when he's fighting guys like Dennis Bondar, tried to take him down a couple of times, and he's able to get back up, and Bondar got a little bit tired, and Carlos Hernandez's boxing was just so sharp and so accurate. He was able to touch him up a little bit and finally land the takedown of his own, where he got the should have been finished that got called back. So, man, for the pick, I'm going to stick with Carlos Hernandez here for the fact that I think on the feet it's going to be a massive, massive skill gap. And I've seen Tatsuro Taira get tagged up a little bit. I think Carlos Hernandez is going to be the one to, land a little bit more than these other guys have. I like Taira. I just don't know at this age, if this win streak like this going undefeated can continue. It happens every single time, especially when you're least expecting it. And if you're going to give me this big of a price on Hernandez, I got to take a shot, even if it's just for a little bit of money here. Yeah, man, I don't know. Something's telling me Hernandez is going to spoil the party.
Yeah, I'm been waiting for my spot to take or fade Tatsuro Taira as well. Carlos Hernandez looks like a solid option because he's got the ability to put a pace on you with the boxing. We saw it his last time out, super crisp, landed some really nice shots, got some takedowns of his own, stuffed some takedowns. He looked really good. But then you look at the fight before that when he gets submitted by Alan Nascimento, and I just don't like it. For Tatsuro Taira, he's shown that he doesn't really need or really want to engage in the striking. Like he's just able to take these guys down, do his work there, and that's it. And I think in this one, if you're going to Tatsuro Taira, I feel like you got to have knockout power. You got to be able to hurt him on the feet. I don't think Carlos Hernandez has really shown that. So I think Taira, to go 3 rounds and outpoint this guy on the feet, I just don't really see it happening. I think Tatsuro Taira will eventually get him to the ground. And on the ground, he's shown that he can keep guys on the ground and do work there. I mean, we saw it against Edgar Shirez. He was pretty content to hold him on the ground for a while. And, he's very methodical with his ground game. He doesn't really rush anything. And I think in this one, I think Taira gets the dub. Don't love the price by any means. Eventually the fade will come, but I just don't think it's this time. Taira will be the pick for me. Strawweight bout, Talita Alencar coming in at plus 120 against Hyen Amanda, sitting at minus 150. Over under 2.5 rounds, minus 180 for the over, plus 150 for the under. The debuting Talita Alencar, she's 3-2 in her last 5, and that's definitely not right. Disregard those stats, but Talita is making her UFC debut. And
4-0-1.
yeah, she's
Or 4, yeah.
4-0-1.
Yeah, 4-0-1.
But she fought on the Contender Series, went to a draw, and she showed early on that she has the jiu-jitsu skills. The gas tank kind of failed her there, and on the feet, she was kind of a sitting duck, which ultimately ended up a 10-8 in the third round, not going her way, and that's why it was a draw. But coming in here against Amanda Dos Santos, she fought Denise Gomes on the Contender Series back in 2022. Since then, or she took a loss there. Since then, she's got 3 straight wins, and one of them by finish in the first round submission armbar. It's a good scrap. It's a weird fight because you don't really know where to put Taira Alencar, really. I mean, she didn't really show much on the feet. She's gonna have to use that at least to disguise her takedown into a jiu-jitsu in this one against Dos Santos. The fight with Denise Gomes was a good fight. She clearly lost that one, but she showed a lot of heart. She is a little bit smaller for the division. I mean, she fought on Invicta at atom weight her last 2 fights, so I don't really think she's going to come in here and outmuscle Taira. Taira got to get this fight to the ground. That's really just what it comes down to. Dos Santos, decent stand-up. She's got some good jiu-jitsu herself, 8 submissions on her record, but I don't really think she wants to go down there with Alencar in this one. So what are you thinking?
Yeah, it's hard because this is, entry level, lower level women's MMA. And, Alencar, pretty one dimensional from what we saw on Dana White's Contender Series. She's very good at that one dimension of her with her jiu-jitsu. Like if she gets girls down to the mat, there's not a lot at this level that are going to be able to survive and hang with her. But she did get really, really tired on that Contender Series fight, and I don't like seeing that at all. Yeah. Going up against the girl in Rayanne who has 20 professional mixed martial arts fights. She's been in there with Denise Gomes, girls that are finding wins in the UFC. And, she showed a pretty well-rounded game on the regional scene. She's got 2 wins by knockout, 8 by submission, 4 by decision. She can wrestle and grapple a little bit. Obviously, with 8 subs on her record, she's got a somewhat of a jiu-jitsu game as well. It's not going to be at the level of Alencar, but I think it's enough to survive long enough until Alencar gets tired here. And on the feet, I don't think it's really a question on who's going to have the better skill set. So you put all that experience against Alencar, who's only got 5 professional mixed martial arts fights. I just don't really like her to win this fight unless it's by an early submission. Like I'm talking round 1, because if it doesn't come in round 1, I think she's screwed. I think she could get finished later in the fight here too if she gets that tired again in this fight. So yeah, give me Rayanne, Amanda here. Probably not a fight I'm going to be betting on. I don't know. We'll see. I said that about Miesha Tate too, and I ended up taking her and we won that one. So maybe I do throw something on it. But at the end of the day, I just don't know if Alencar is a mixed martial artist who's ready for the UFC. I think she's more of a damn good grappler, just your average UFC fighter here for me. So yeah, give me Rand Amanda to win this fight.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go the same way. Like Alencar, I mean, being good at jiu-jitsu is nice, but it's just different in MMA. Like you just got to set it up. You got to get the takedown. It's just a lot different, and we kind of saw that in the last fight. Like you're going up against a girl who was 5-0 or 5-1 in her Contender Series fight. It's like if you're going to fight a girl in the Contender Series with that little of experience, I would expect if you're that good at jiu-jitsu that you should be able to put her away. She wasn't able to. Dos Santos, I think, should be able to hang around, survive, take over later, and get the dub. So she'll be the pick for me. Featherweight bout. It's actually going to be a lightweight bout because this one was supposed to be last week, and it was my sleeper fight of the week. I was so disappointed when it got canceled because I love this fight. But Steve Garcia was coming in as the dog. Mullarkey Costa was sitting around minus 200. I don't know where the odds will be at now that it's at 155, but I would assume they'll be similar. But Steve Garcia, 31 years of age. We talked about this last week. We broke it down. So we'll probably say a lot of similar stuff here, but it's a good fight. I love this fight. Steve Garcia, big hands, heavy hands. The ability to knock people down is definitely there, but the ability to get knocked down is also there. He gets knocked down a lot. Sometimes he's able to overcome it. Against Mahashat, he wasn't, but against Nurmagomedov, he was. Against Ontiveros, he was. he's just a dog. He's a junkyard dog. Melky Costa looked really good against Austin Lingo. Put a beating on him, showed a lot of good skills in that one. I picked Steve Garcia, I think, last time, and I was going to bet him. I don't know if I'll continue to do that because it sounded like Garcia had to pull out with an injury. I don't really like that. Turn around a week later, be like, okay, what happened in a week to, make it okay? Or maybe he just needs a paycheck, getting back in there into the octagon to get paid. I'm kind of torn because I like Garcia as the dog, but now that he's coming back off the injury a week later, I don't know. What are you thinking?
Yeah, no, I'm the same way. Yeah, a week, from having to pull out of a fight, injury, sickness, whatever the case may be, and then taking a fight, next weekend makes me nervous. So if you were betting on Steve Garcia because of the price, I think you're going to get bigger dog money here just because of that factor whenever the lines come out. But I think if he wins this fight, he's got to knock Costa out because Costa's going to come in with a good game plan with great striking. He throws these kicks to the body over and over and over that just seem to wear down his opponents. He'll bring it upstairs to the head too. His hands are fast. They're good. It's pretty tough as well. But I think he's underrated in the wrestling department. I think Costa will be able to take Garcia down at some point in this fight. And that's kind of been where Garcia gets beat. He's not really, the guys can hurt him on the feet, but they're not really outclassing him, and he's able to touch them up too. But when he gets taken down, there's times he loses fight. So, yeah, with Costa, you mix that in with those kicks, man. It's the kicks it comes down to the kicks for me. I think he's going to eat the legs up of Garcia, slow him down, stop him in his tracks, try to take some of the power out of him. And if he lands enough of those to the body, I just don't see Garcia having the gas tank for one and the power left in him to put Costa out. I think Costa is going to make this a dirty fight with a lot of clinch work, elbows, knees, a lot of kicks to the body, and walk away with it here. I like violence in this spot, though. Both guys are powerful. Both guys can find the chin. Both guys get hit a little bit. Garcia gets hit just a little bit more. I could see this one ending inside the distance.
Yeah, I liked the under last week, and I think I like it even more here. But the upside for Steve Garcia, you're at the Apex, and it's a smaller cage. Melky uses a lot of movement, fights out the back foot a good amount, uses the kicks. So he'll have to be cautious of that smaller cage. Garcia probably able to corner him a little bit easier, land those big bombs. I think I got to go with Melky Costa in this one just because of the injury for the pick. But I do still like that under. It's probably something I'll play. But for the pick, I'll take Melky Costa. I think just different weapons and the injury for Steve Garcia I don't necessarily like. So he'll be the pick for me. Catch weight bout here of 140. Daniel Marcos coming in. No odds are out for this one because he got announced, a couple days ago. I'm sure the odds will be out, within the next few days. But still undefeated for Daniel Marcos, taking on Carlos Vera. Who is 11-3, 36 years of age for him. I would expect Daniel Marcos to be a pretty big favorite in this one because he's shown at the UFC level he's pretty dang good. And Carlos Vera never fought in the UFC, and he was on the Ultimate Fighter, and he lost to Brad Katona in the first round of that Ultimate Fighter tournament. So I don't know. I don't really know why they even made this fight, but it's out there, and we're gonna be able to break it down and bet on it. So there's that. But Marcos, I'd probably put him at like minus 500 to be honest. I'd be shocked if he was anything lower than like minus 300, minus 400. I would expect him to be pretty sizable favorite in this one, and probably gets a pretty easy win here. He's got super nice striking, a lot of good kicks, a lot of good movement. Carlos Vera, he's 36. Wasn't he? He was like it was prospects versus what, veterans, and I think he was a prospect. He was like a prospect at 36 years of age. I was like, what is going on here?
Yeah, because he was McGregor's team.
Yeah, it was like 36-year-old prospect. Are we serious right now? But yeah, just not some great stuff like watching him. I mean, he's fought to a lot of decisions. He's got some decent submissions. He's got 5 on his record. The stand-up is okay. I mean, losing to Brad Katona is not like terrible on the Ultimate Fighter because he ended up winning it. But I don't really know why this is a fight being made. But Daniel Marcos is the pick for me. It's like a no-brainer. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, Carlos Vera's only opportunity to win this fight is a takedown and a submission, and Daniel Marcos has a 90% takedown defense. We saw Simon Oliveira try to get him down, didn't work. He got pieced up. Davey Grant wasn't really looking for the takedowns, but even in that fight, like Daniel Marcos got outstruck, but he lands such good shots and they're so clean and damaging that he was able to walk away with his hand raised there in London against Davey Grant with the home crowd for Grant and everything. He was able to win. So with Carlos Vera coming in here, hasn't fought UFC caliber guys. Now you're getting Daniel Marcos, who just beat a veteran, a good veteran too. That's always tough to beat, and he's still undefeated. Like I don't think Vera is going to be the one to come in here and take that O by any means. I think he's going to look for takedowns. It's going to get him stuffed. Probably going to get tired. Marcos is going to use the kicks to the body, to the legs, and have a clinic. Honestly, I think this thing ends inside the distance with Marco getting the KO or TKO. I just don't understand this fight at all, but it makes perfect sense for this card. Kind of thrown together, this fight. Yeah. I think it was like they picked two names out of the hat in the division and threw them in the octagon together. And I mean, Vera getting beat by Katona in round one on the Ultimate Fighter and then gets into the UFC is just weird to me. I think there's probably better options on the show that you could have put in this spot. Maybe they turned it down. Maybe Vera's the only one who accepted. But yeah, this is Daniel Marcos all day, in my opinion. I don't expect the line to be anywhere close. I think this is Daniel Marco probably being the biggest favorite on the card.
Yeah, and the bright side for Carlos Vera, he's never been knocked out. That's usually the way that Daniel Marcos is going to look to finish the fight. He's been submitted twice. Maybe we see a Daniel Marcos submission, but I doubt it. But yeah, it's just probably Daniel Marcos doing his thing, mixing up the weapons and piecing them up, getting a win. You know, maybe some value on the decision because Carlos Vera has never been knocked out. So keep that in the back of your mind going forward. But those are the picks for UFC Vegas 83. I mentioned it at the early part of the show. Nascimento fight got canceled. Maybe they'll find a replacement for Sumaderchi, but until then, that one's off. And so we got 11 fights in total. But yeah, those are the picks. If you want the bets, once again, the premium membership link is in the description. And if you want just the bets for this card, you can wait till Friday. They'll be available through that link as well. If you want to take any of our free picks, at HeyJai Picks on the medias for me, at the Double Leg on Instagram. We'll drop our free pick there Saturday afternoon, probably. Where can they find you?
All social media is at the Parlay MMA.
And if you want to hit the subscription button for us, hit the like button for us. It would help us out a lot. Appreciate you all. Double Leg signing out.